All right, so it looks like we're live. So hello and welcome to the 2021 UAF Arctic Innovation Competition presented by UCB Coal Mine. My name is Ashley Plies, and I'm a UAF School of Management student studying accounting, as well as an AIC team member. I'm so excited to be your MC tonight for our first ever virtual AIC. We appreciate all the creative ideas that are submitted to AIC, but after a round of preliminary screening, only 7 made it to the semifinals in the junior division for youth aged 13 to 17. The junior semifinalists received AIC backpacks, Cold Stone gift certificates, and cash prizes from $50 to $1,000. I want to let our junior competitors and anyone watching on the live stream know that we are recording each of the semifinal sessions this week, and you'll find them on the AIC webpage. Our streamlining platform does not allow us to show you the slides, but importantly, if you are watching online, you'll see and hear the competitors. First, we would like to introduce you to our expert panel of judges today. Make sure you have your cameras on, judges. And let's first welcome Rochelle Johnson from the UAA Center for Economic Development, Russ Tulvey from the Alaska Small Business Development Center, Aaron Baca from the 49th State Angel Fund, UAF engineering student Richie Stickle, who is also a mining intern for UCB Coal Mine, and Samicha Sakalkar, joining us from the UAF Geophysical Institute. Thank you, judges, and let's get started with presentations. Junior competitors have 3 minutes to present their ideas, followed by 3 minutes of questions from the judges panel. Competitors, please remember to say next slide when you're ready for us to advance to the next slide. And keep an eye on your timer in the bottom right-hand corner to see how much time is left. And as our first competitor is getting ready and the first slide deck is coming up, we will introduce Anna DeVald, presenting her idea, Pop, Promote Our Pollinators. All right, Anna, do you have your camera on and are you unmuted?
I cannot start my video because the host has stopped it.
All right, let's, there we go.
Thank you.
All right. Are you able to see your slides?
Yes, I can.
Perfect, all right, and give us a thumbs up when you're ready to start.
Right. Pollinators. According to the Earthwatch Institute, they are the most important creatures on the planet. Not only are they crucial to the creation of food and sustainability of plants, my community is also extremely reliant on them. The fishing industry is an enormous part of our way of life, and pollinators are major contributors to the health of that industry. By promoting the vegetation on riparian zones, they prevent soil erosion, keep the river water cool, and provide food sources for our wild Alaskan salmon. Pollinators also aid in stopping the erosion of our bluffs. Pollinator numbers have been declining for many reasons, but the 2 most critical issues are habitat loss and pesticide use. I wanted to do something about it, so I sat down at the kitchen table and started to think, how could I help pollinators in my state? The result of that question? POP, Promote Our Pollinators. Next slide, please. My original idea was to make a flyer, activity book, and website to educate and inspire our community. Next slide, please. Then POP grew to include make and take presentations, where I give a short lesson on the importance of pollinators, why their numbers are declining, and what we can do to help. Then participants plant their own pollinator packs. These special 6-pack pots contain 6 different pollinator-friendly seedlings, the start of a pretty, portable pollinator garden. These packs are placed all over our urban areas, providing the reliable, easy-to-locate food source that pollinators need at frequent intervals. Next slide, please. I've fundraised and received 4 grants to support the cost of pollinator pack growing and distribution and ordering promotional supplies like reusable tote bags, buttons, stickers, and plant stakes. Next slide, please. I've worked with the cities of Kenai and Soldotna to design and install 8 permanent pollinator garden signs for our community spaces. The signs are installed in 8 different pollinator-friendly locations. I've created a POP Facebook page and Twitter account to share information about pollinators and POP events. Its current reach is 16,000 people worldwide. Next slide, please. I've also built online and in-class curriculum based on the POP concept. The online class includes topics, quizzes, activities, lessons, videos, and writing prompts to educate students about what pollinators do for the environment, why pollinators are declining, and what we can do to help. Next slide, please. The in-class curriculum is comprised of lesson plans for the teacher and a class set of flyers, activity books, pollinator pack planting supplies like seeds, 6-pack pots, soil, pot plant tags, and care instructions, buttons, stickers, and reusable tote bags. Both the online and in-class curriculum is geared towards 3rd through 6th graders. Next slide, please. I've partnered with the Kenai Peninsula Economic Development District to turn this President's Environmental Youth Award-winning project into a thriving business over the past 3 years. I'm growing and selling pollinator packs and producing curriculum kits to sell to schools and to homeschool families. Next slide, please. As a gardener, I really like planting seeds, so here's one for you to grow. Find something that you're passionate about, no matter how small, and see how you can use it to change the world.
Thank you so much, Anna. Are you ready for some questions from our judges?
Yes, I am.
All
Hold
right.
on, please. I'll put the order of the questions into the, so Russ, you are up, or Rochelle, you're up first. I will put the order in the chat, followed by Russ.
Can I go?
Yes, go.
Awesome job, Anna. As a young small business owner, what would you say is the next step that you'd like to take with your business?
Well, I think the next step for me, I have everything designed. I have everything created, the flyers, the activity books, the pollinator packs, the curriculum kits. All I need is funding. I was able to prototype both the curriculum kits and the pollinator packs last year, thanks to the 4 grants I received. But yeah, the next step for me, I have my business license and I'm trademarking my logo, is just capital.
Russ, you are up next.
Great, thanks. Yeah, Anna, excellent job. 3 years in business already. Awesome. What do you think it is about your POP program that makes your project different than other pollinator public awareness programs around the country?
Well, my products, they're entirely new. The curriculum kits contain everything a teacher needs to hold a pollinator lesson, class set of flyers, activity books, pollinator pack planting supplies, like seeds, 6-pack pots, soil, pot plant tags, and care instructions, buttons, stickers, and reusable tote bags. That's all in one kit. So teachers don't have to go out and buy supplies. They don't have to go out and try and find curriculum. It's all in one kit, which has not been developed before. And also my pollinator packs, they're designed for businesses. And the way flowers are sold right now, in each 6-pack pot, there's 6 flowers of one kind. And for businesses that want to have a small flower display in front of their business to make it attractive to customers, they have to spend between $20 and $30 just to get the variety they want. The pollinator packs are different because they have 6 different pollinator-friendly seedlings. Not only are they inexpensive, they're only $5. They have the variety that businesses want, and they are good for our environment.
Thank you.
Hi, Anna. My question, I suppose, relates more to the structure in which you intend to bring in capital. So I hear that you have a lot of things going on, and as a business owner, that can sometimes be difficult to maintain integrity and quality over every aspect of that. And then I don't know if you're familiar with the term of passive income, which is where you can set something up so that it runs on its own and you don't oversee it, and it's bringing in income that doesn't take up much of your time. Is there a part of this that you could see either setting up as passive income, or where might you slim down your product to ensure that you can scale it up and make this a nationwide product?
I could definitely see it becoming a nationwide product, especially with the pollinator packs. I could definitely work with a lot of our greenhouses, both local and eventually nationwide, to be able to just be able to sell those throughout the nation and not just here in Alaska.
Hi, Anna. You've done a great job growing your brand, obviously, but how can you demonstrate numerically that your POP, your promoter pollinators program is working?
Well, I haven't had any income yet, just because everything I've paid for has been paid for in grants. But once I get started, I know that it will definitely be profitable. I've already gotten multiple orders for pollinator packs and multiple orders for curriculum kits just for this year. They did great last year, and I've already got satisfied customers returning for more. So.
Hello, really good presentation and really love the idea. I was wondering, so like, have you already, you said you have started this worldwide as well? So like, how do you deal with like stuff like, for example, like export? Because there's certain stuff which like, especially plants, they kind of have these very strict guidelines. You can't really send them to, or they have to be specially modified or something. So like, have you come across them, or like, how do you deal with them?
I haven't actually had any out of the country orders for pollinator packs. That worldwide reach is my Facebook and Twitter page. But I actually have had some national orders of activity books and flyers. So that's pretty cool.
All right, thank you, judges.
All right, thank you, judges, and thank you, Anna. We are going to bring we're going to bring our second presenter in. Let's see if he's arrived yet. All right. Hi there, Bradley. Bradley James is about to present his idea, water tank depth sensor. Bradley, please remember to watch the 3-minute countdown clock. And can you see your slides?
Awesome. Yes, can.
All right, give us a thumbs up when you're ready.
All right, so my name is Bradley James, and my idea is pretty much to be able to remotely access what your fuel and water tank level is from pretty much anywhere that you have Wi-Fi connectivity to. So a common problem in Alaska is houses freezing up and or running out of water because many people are do-it-yourselfers and like to haul water themselves, myself included. My family and I recently purchased a new home, and we had to start hauling fuel and water. And right off the bat, we didn't do it fast enough, and we burned out a water pump, and we ran out of fuel, and our house almost froze up right away. Really bad, pipes burst. Big cost to having to replace a pump is $60. If you do it yourself, it's only $60. If you have someone do it, it can be upwards of $200 for installation fees. And if your water pipes burst and houses flood, I mean, your house can be completely totaled. So I've always been interested in small electronic projects, and I figured out that I needed a way to go out and check my water level without having to just walk out and dip it every day and a half and remember to do it consistently. So my stepfather and I designed a product that is pretty much this small and uses a Arduino Uno Wi-Fi and a depth sensor that goes down into the bottom of your tank. It sends a signal to the Arduino, and then currently uses a program called Blink, which is just available through the internet. It's a cell phone app that you pretty much check your phone, and it connects to the Arduino. So I have it set up that it tells me the level of the water and fuel. I also added in neat little features like red, yellow, green lights. So I'm sorry, I forgot to do a slide deck, but red, yellow, green lights that you can see from just outside your home. So you can look out your window and see that it's green is say above 75%, yellow is 75 to 50, and red is 20 to 50%. And then anything below 20, it blinks a red flashing light, as well as sending a signal to a relay that connects to your water pump and turns your water pump off for you in the sense that when you use it for water, so that you can't burn out a pump, and then you will not have any water pressure and you'll go, oh, what's going on here? And you'll be able to fix the problem and solve it right away. The other portion of this is that the fuel form and that this and water is much better for our drastic temperature changes. So 60 below to 30 above, this will always work, no matter the temperature, and will never freeze up. And that's it.
All right, thank you so much, Bradley. We're going to have our judges ask you questions now about your water tank depth sensor. And I believe we're going to start with Rochelle.
Thanks, Bradley. I've worked with rural utilities, and fuel tank gauges is a big issue throughout rural Alaska. How would you say your tank sensors are different from other sensors that might be on the market?
So I actually did a lot of research on this, and a lot of products that are currently on the market are installed when you put the tank in the ground. Now your tank is 40 feet below the ground, so if you didn't opt this in when you built your own house, you have to have an aftermarket portion to this. And a lot of aftermarket ones are offered with an ultrasonic sensor that only works at 20 degrees. So it's 40 below, that's not going to cut it, especially when you're trying to pump in water. It's just going to freeze up. You're not going to get a good signal and things aren't going to run right. So mine is a lot different, that it will always work year round in the cold, and you always get a very accurate sensing. Sorry.
Thanks.
Hi, Bradley. A question about your display, the yellow, red, green light display that you said would be visible. Yeah. So that's connected by Wi-Fi to the sensor?
So no, this is a PCB board that I soldered in and connected a series of resistors and wires to. I don't currently have it connected so that I can freely move it around, but it gets directly hardwired in to input and output ports on the Arduino. The Arduino is the portion that is wirelessly connected. So this in my code connects to the internet, and then from there sends a signal to my phone. So this is hardwired into this and soldered in. This is the sensor, probably wrong side. This is hardwired into this, and then this is hardwired into this, and then it sends the signal from there.
So the Arduino is going to be inside the garage or inside the basement?
Yeah, so I actually don't have it. I'm currently printing. I have a 3D printer that I 3D printed a box that all of this gets stored neatly packed inside, and it gets hose clamped to the air fill hose, because both on a water tank and a fuel tank, you have to have an air exit hose, which you don't put fuel and water in. So that leaves space for your sensor to go down. And then the box, which neatly holds everything and is easily user accessible, is attached to the pipe.
So I could drive by and see that as a visual as well.
Yeah, so the red, yellow, green lights are externally on the front of the box, but all of this is watertight and sealed inside.
Thank you.
Of course.
Hi, Bradley. I will leave the technical questions to some of the other judges. My question relates to market size. How big is your market currently, if you were to stay just in Alaska, sorry? And do you see other applications for this product that folks say in the lower 48 could use? And I know you talked about it can sustain, never mind, scratch that. I'll scratch that question. But yeah, how do you see this being applied again nationally?
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to say because it's kind of a niche market in the sense that I really kind of tailored it to extremes. But I mean, in the sense you could definitely use it for anybody who hauls fuel and water in rural areas. So anywhere that does their own needs to check pretty much the level of any liquid remotely from anywhere, this could be used for. So it doesn't necessarily need to be your home fuel and water tank. If someone needs to check, say a farmer needs to check what their water level is on their irrigation system in Nebraska, but they're 40 miles away and they don't have time to run out there and check it, they can just look at their phone and they know that they have enough water or enough feed, say, that's going to go around for their crops or animals.
Perfect, thank you.
Bradley, I believe you mentioned that you've already implemented this into your own home. Am I wrong?
Yeah, so I kind of have a rough portion of it. It doesn't, I'm still working out the kinks of everything, but I do have a rough one that works in our house. It throws it in there and I look at the phone, and since I'm the one running it, it has a pretty complicated interface that I'm trying to work out the kinks with my grandparents, who are the best. Since they're not very tech savvy, I give it to them and they can help me work out the kinks to make it user friendly across the board.
Yeah, that's perfect. What other problems have you encountered besides extreme temperatures?
Really, nothing more than just basic kind of weather problems. So I originally just had it in like a little wooden box that I made, and it didn't really hold up too well. So then I have multiple 3D printers that I use at my family's business, and I have one here next to me in my shop. And I went, I'm just going to try and 3D print this. So pretty much my current problem is just trying to make a weather tight box so that it's not open to conditions like rain and stuff. So because these are all electrical circuit parts, you don't want anything kind of shorting out or fritzing.
Hey Bradley, really good presentation. I was wondering, so like you mentioned that you use a code which is like available online.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, like maybe like a technical question as well. Like, so how do you deal with like maybe copyright, or like is that like code freely available, or do you have to pay some copyright issues with them, or maybe that's
Yeah, so Blink is actually an open source program if you're using it in small applications. So currently I'm the only one who has my account working with my 3 little programs that I have. If I ever wanted to take it out more, I'd have to pay them for that program. I am a fairly competent computer programmer, so I'm working on making my own app portion so that I don't have to pay those fees, but that is definitely something that's in the long run, and it's going to take a lot of working out, but I'm getting there soon.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Bradley and judges. Next, we're going to have our first sponsor spotlight. Our newest partner is Alaska 529, an education-free saving plan designed to make it easy for parents and loved ones to save for any education. Accounts are tax-free for expenses both in and out of Alaska. There are 2 ways for our junior competitors to receive $2,000 in Alaska 529 awards: the first place idea and the winning fan favorite idea. If you're watching us live, make sure to go to the AIC website and vote for your fan favorite in each division. There will be bonus content with videos from most of our competitors. Voting ends Thursday at midnight. All right, and coming up next is our next presenter, Danica Dolly. All right, there she is. So hello, Danica. Danica's Dolly is going to present her backup buoy. All right, Danica, do you see your slide?
Yes, I do.
Perfect. All right, give us a thumbs up when you're ready.
Hi, I'm Danica Dolly, a freshman at North Pole High School. The product I have designed is called the Backup Buoy. In the past 7 years, my family has lost 5 shrimp traps while fishing in Valdez. Normally, we spend just a week or 2 each year fishing, so it's not that much time. Not only are we losing hundreds of dollars worth of gear, but, next slide please, when the traps sit on the seafloor, they continue to attract, trap, and kill sea life for years to come. We lost one set of traps after our own boat accidentally ran over the rope that had not fully sunk yet, and another set of traps because a boat crossed the rope near the buoy. Next slide, please. Both of those pot strings would have been saved with a simple solution, the backup buoy. Despite derelict traps being an obvious hazard to all ocean environments, I was unable to find any solutions attempting to reduce the risk of losing traps. The backup buoy is great because it can be sold at an affordable price and it can be reused. Next slide, please. Since the ropes connecting the pots to the buoy floats at an angle, the rope would be cut near the surface. The backup buoy is hooked onto the rope 50 feet below the buoy and serves 2 functions. It reduces the risk of the rope being cut by a boat by having the rope sink straight down instead of at an angle, and if the rope does get cut, it inflates itself and floats to the surface, allowing the pots to be retrieved. Next slide, please. The buoy itself has 2 compartments, the main section that gets inflated, and the top of the buoy that houses all the parts and can be removed from the main part to replace the batteries and the compressed air canister. My dad is both an engineer and the head of our shrimping operation. After I developed my idea and thought I had thoroughly covered many of the engineering challenges of this project, we discussed other ideas to improve it. Because only 33 feet of water puts a whole atmosphere of pressure on the buoy, it will have a pressure meter to determine how deep it is. If it sinks below 150 feet, the buoy will inflate and float to the surface, but it will also have a timer in case the buoy gets set on a shelf above 150 feet, keeping the buoy from being activated. To make sure it has value, I can talk to others we know who go shrimping. Testing its utility will be a bit more difficult, but since all the parts I would need already exist, I just need to order and put them together, which would not take long. Next slide, please. Derelict traps are definitely a problem at fishing grounds everywhere, and although there are many causes, propeller strikes were listed as one of the top 3 causes in a study done by NOAA on the Chesapeake Bay. The study estimated 12 to 20% of traps set are lost. Even though the backup buoy is only targeted at preventing propeller strikes, it is still progress towards safer fishing methods. Next slide, please. My idea creates economic value by saving fishermen hundreds of dollars on lost gear and reduces the need for programs to fish lost traps off of the bottom. It can easily be manufactured on a large scale since it would be as simple as assembling all the parts. Next slide, please. The backup buoy would mean fishermen can finally have another layer of security for their expensive gear, and it would give delicate ocean environments a little more much-needed protection.
All right, thank you so much, Danica. Are you ready for questions from our judges?
Yep.
All right, and we're going to start with Rochelle.
Awesome job, Danica. Could you tell me a little bit more about your next steps in testing out your idea?
My next step would be to get the parts and put them together. And since we go fishing each year, I could just test it on our shrimping trips. And I would probably, do some preliminary testing where I just set it off before sticking it 100 feet underwater or 50 feet underwater because, well, I can't get it back if it doesn't work. But other than that, it would be fairly simple installing everything.
Hi, Danica. Nice presentation. I am also a Prince William Sound recreational shrimper, so I was intrigued by your idea and many things I really like about it. You mentioned that the parts are available and that you can put them together and that would be an affordable price. Can you give us an idea about what that retail price range might be?
I'm thinking probably $50, depending on, what quality of gear people get. That would be under the price range of most of the deep sea shrimping and crabbing pots you could get. So I think that would be a good price. It would definitely cover all the costs of manufacturing and everything with a decent profit.
Great, thank you.
Hi, Danica. I've never shrimped before, but I was a deckhand, so on a halibut fishing boat. So I think, can you explain to me a little bit, will the backup buoy be at a static position on the rope, or will it sort of, will you have a ring so that it can sort of adjust itself under the water? And then I guess I'm sort of curious that, will you have to add additional rope so that if the line gets cut, the buoy has enough space to float all the way to the surface when it's inflated?
You would have to, so the rope or the buoy would be hooked onto the rope in one place. It wouldn't be able to float around. So like if the line doesn't get caught or cut, it can't just float off the line. And you would have to make sure you have at least 50 feet of more rope, but there's generally already plenty of rope to account for like the tides and everything. And that's why it floats at an angle and is more of a risk of getting cut by boats.
Thank you.
Could you please elaborate on the process by which, once the rope above the buoy is cut, the process by which the CO2 canister is ignited?
So the buoy will either, as it sinks down, because the main buoy is what's holding it 50 feet below the water. Once that buoy gets separated, the backup buoy will like sink towards the bottom of the ocean. And once it gets past a certain depth, it will just send a signal and the CO2 canister will get activated and inflate itself. But since it's so deep below the surface of the water, it'll also have a pressure gauge so that it doesn't overinflate itself and pop as the pressure lessens. But it will also have a timer because since the ocean, obviously it isn't one flat bottom, it could get set like stuck somewhere that's above whatever distance that it would be activated at, and then it will inflate itself. And like the owner can change the time that it gets inflated at and also the depth, but 150 feet was what I thought would work best.
Hey, Danik, really good presentation. I just had one question. So like you mentioned like the backup buoy. So the material that you're going to use, like, do you know like what is the lifespan of that material? Like how long can you use it for? Because that would like maybe like help me understand like how feasible that would be.
Because it's just like, it would be made out of the similar materials to what other buoys are made out of. It would have a lifespan of at least several years. It would be a little different because it's more specialized towards one purpose, just versus just floating. But it would at least have several years of a lifespan before you'd have to replace it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Danica and judges. Our next team is a group of 3, and they're going to be moved over momentarily. All right.
Crystal, can you please start the camera of the device you're gonna use? We can't tell with 2 devices.
There we are.
Thank you.
All right, so this is Daria Mante, Joey Dallaire, and Sophia Thayer presenting their idea, permafrost damage prevention. All right, can you guys see your slides?
All right, can you guys see your slides?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, just give us the thumbs up when you're ready.
Shh. Yeah, you're ready. Thumbs up when you're ready.
Hi, we're the permafrost damage prevention team. I'm Daria Manti and I'm in 7th grade.
Hi, I'm Joey Dallaire and I'm also in 7th grade.
I'm Sophia Thayer and I'm in 5th grade. We go to Barnett Magnet School in Fairbanks, Alaska. We believe that our idea will save people money in permafrost damage repairs. Next slide, please.
Permafrost is frozen ground that thaws and refreezes throughout the year.
It consists of gravel, sand, and soil held together by ice. Permafrost can be stays at 32 degrees Fahrenheit or below It can be found on land and below water. Next slide, please.
Permafrost causes damage to buildings and structures by thawing and refreezing.
Permafrost covers most of Alaska in the northern hemisphere, which is why a solution to the damages causes is important. Next slide, please. This shows a house in Fairbanks, Alaska that has been severely damaged by permafrost. Next slide, please.
There are currently a few methods used to prevent permafrost damage to buildings and roads.
First, there is slab jacking, which is when you lift up parts of the structure that are sinking due to permafrost and add concrete and foam to raise the foundation. This helps to level the house. Second, there is a method where you remove snow. This method works because one, it stops snow from melting and making the ground warmer, and two, it stops snow from insulating the ground, thus keeping it cool.
A third method is changing the foundation by building a structure on pilings. Pilings are like stilts. As the ground shifts due to the thawing and refreezing of permafrost, the pilings can be adjusted to keep the house level. Next slide, please.
Our solution goes to the root of the permafrost problem. We would find recycled tires and squeeze them into bales. Each bale would have approximately 100 tires. Rubber insulates very well and helps maintain a consistent temperature around the permafrost, therefore preserving the frozen ground.
After baling the tires, you would place them into the ground under the structure. Next slide, please.
We spoke with several professionals regarding our idea, and they suggested modifications to improve our concept.
Gary Larson gave us the idea to paint the tires white so they reflect heat. Here it's at the permafrost tunnel in Fairbanks.
We also spoke with Jeff Curry, who works for the Alaska Department of Transportation. He gave us the idea to apply the ACE method into our concept. ACE stands for Air Convection Embankment. In this method, you surround the tire bales with fist-sized rocks. This creates small pockets of air to help keep air circulating, keeping everything cool. Next slide, please. Tires, white paint, and rocks are the materials used in our idea. Next slide, please. Our next step after finding funding would be to have a local business build tires. We would start small by implementing our idea under a structure such as a greenhouse. Next slide, please.
All right, thank you so much, Daria, Joey, and Sophia. Our judges are now going to ask you their questions. Are you guys ready?
Awesome job, guys. So how does your method for solving this problem kind of bring new value to other methods of working around permafrost that are already used in Alaska?
With this method, it would be implemented before the permafrost does damage to the house. But in other methods, it's fixing the damage that has already been done. So this would prevent it from ever happening.
Thank you.
Really nice job of coordinating that presentation between the three of you and pulling in some local experts there. Appreciated those resources that you shared with us. I'm wondering if you guys considered or you did any research about possible environmental consequences of burying tires?
We've done no real research on that, but we will.
Okay, thank you.
Great job, you guys, and extra points for the really cool shirt. So I guess humor me because I'm not from Alaska originally, and I don't live in Fairbanks. Is it possible to lift all houses up to put this under?
Well,
And I also my house is on a foundation, so I'm having a hard time conceptualizing this. If you could explain it to me.
You can jack the house in the foundation and put the tires in and lower it back down.
Do you worry at all that when you jack the house up and lay the tires underneath, that in the event of earthquakes or some other sort of natural happenings, the house integrity may be shaken?
We would definitely have to do more research on how to prevent that and take that into more consideration before we do implement this under a real structure.
Hi, really good presentation. And it's kind of intriguing because I also primarily work on permafrost. So it's kind of good presentation that you're talking about. Like, my question to you was like, do you know about like those like similar stuff that they've done in the UAF, near the UAF campus, where they've used these pylons and like kind of to do air convection? Have you looked into like how successful they are?
People talk to us about that.
Yes, we have had people talk to us about that.
That's
Okay.
actually where we got the idea for air convection and bakement.
Okay.
All right, thank you, judges and team. We're now going to have our next competitor step into the Zoom frame, Matthew Wheatman. And Matthew Wheatman is going to present his hands-free boots idea. All right.
Hello, thank you. Yeah.
All right. Hi there, Matthew.
Hello.
All right. Can you see your presentation slide?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. All right. So just keep an eye on your timer and give us a thumbs up when you're ready.
All right. So when I was making this idea, it was a very interesting thing to come up with. It was like, because I knew that it was something had to be done about the problem of lacing your boots every time. Next slide, please. And it was it never seems to be such a hard thing, but it really can just take that much more time out of your day if you slip on the ice. Or okay. Next slide, please. So I had come up with a list of things that I should do or what could be done, and the little details to make it easier. Next slide, please. So when I was first making the idea, it was all about a shoe, actually. And I had discovered Nike made an exact same thing. It was very sad, but it had forced me to open my eye to a different idea. Next slide, please. So I had made my first prototype. I have it right here, actually. And it was to show the actual top of the boot and how that would work. Next slide, please. And so the way it works is you would put your foot in as you would a normal shoe, but instead of any laces, it would just form around your foot with a spring at the bottom of the shoe. Next slide, please. And the heel, the way you put the spring together is there is a little lever that connects the two parts of the shoe and this spring. And there would be a little platform to have the spring to give a spot to rest on. Next slide, please. The way that the boots stay in, even since it's a boot, you have to come up with an idea to keep the top of it there. There's two magnets placed in each side of the boot to keep them together. Next slide, please. And the shoes are really helpful for about anyone, adaptive athletes. They are helpful for anyone who just has a struggle putting their shoes on in the morning. And just, yeah, next slide, please.
All right, thank you so much, Matthew. Are you ready to answer some questions from our judges?
I am.
All right, we're going to start with Rochelle.
Awesome job, Matthew.
Thank you.
It seems like you have already developed some kind of early prototypes and designs. What do you think is the next step in testing out your idea?
The next step in testing out my idea would be a full-fledged prototype, one that you can actually put your foot in instead of just a visible model.
Hi, Matthew. I love the concept. I look forward to a future where I don't have to tie or buckle my shoes, any of that. Awesome. As I looked at your prototype, a couple of things made me wonder about, the comfort of footwear with that new kind of closing device, I guess you'd call it, and how you make that comfortable to wear and to walk in.
Yeah, the shoe would be have a type of normal padding actually as regular shoes. It would be possible with such the simple design of it all. So it should not feel any different than a normal shoe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. I definitely thought about Nike shoe coming out, and I want to commend you because they have been in the shoe making business for a very long time, and it wasn't until someone with a disability had asked them to come up with this idea, and it took them years and lots of money to come up with a design that you on your own came up with. So congratulations for that. Let's see. I'm trying to conceptualize when you say the spring works when you put your heel down and then it keeps the apparatus closed because your feet is always on it. But when you're walking, your feet comes up. So how do you envision keeping the bottom of the shoe to come up with your foot as you walk? Because you do need to lift it.
Yeah, that is a very good question. In the bottom of the shoe, the little platform that was shown, there is also a little magnet in it. So when you walk, it will keep the shoe in the upright. It will keep the shoe in the proper position. And then to release the magnet, you just put your other foot on the back of the heel and lift with the foot that your foot is in the shoe.
That's brilliant.
Matthew, the magnetic seal catches my ear. How do you make sure that it doesn't have a leak?
May you reword the question?
Yeah, my apologies. The magnetic seal, when you step on the spring and it closes the boots, how do you ensure that if you're walking in snow and Arctic conditions, that no water gets in or snow?
Okay, thank you for that. The way that you can make sure that there will be no leaks or openings in the shoe is it has a rubber, I guess outline would be the word. It has a rubber outline on each side. There's 2 rubber flaps, and once the shoe is closed, that creates the seal.
Perfect.
Hey, Matthew, really good idea for sure. I had a question which I'm really not good expert in, so help me with that as well. So I had a question, like you said, you use a magnet to kind of close in like the shoe. So I was wondering, like this kind of concept would be kind of useful for someone like an amputee who kind of use a prosthetic leg, and they are usually made of metal. So I was wondering, like how feasible would that be with them? Would you think that the prosthetic leg would cause an issue with the magnet, or I don't know?
I'm sorry, I actually hadn't catch that. My audio had
Oh, sorry, I can repeat that. So that the magnet that you use for your like keeping the shoe intact, and I was hoping that this idea kind of speaks to people maybe who have like an amputee who have like maybe lost a leg or maybe something like that, and they usually use a prosthetic leg and they are usually metallic. So I was wondering like what could an issue do you think would that cause with maybe for them?
well, the shoe is inside the magnet. It's laced between two layers, and they're relatively thick layers on between your boot and your foot. And so that should really dampen the magnetic connection between the metal alloy of your prosthetic leg and the magnets inside the boot.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Matthew. We are now going into our last sponsor spotlight. Besides great experience, our junior competitors are receiving cash awards from $50 to $500, AIC backpacks, and as well as top ranking competitors receive a medal. Kinross Fort Knox makes this possible with their generous support of the Cub and Junior divisions. They've been a supporter since our first year of AIC in 2009, and as a founding sponsor, Kinross Fort Knox deserves a big thank you. All right, our next presentation is going to be by another trio. We will welcome Eunice Wan, Elizabeth Kim, and Pauline Zhu presenting VCE Vapor Condensation Evaporator. And we'll give them a minute to get in here.
Oh, sorry, we can't start our video yet.
All right, we'll just help you out there.
Okay, thank you.
All right, perfect. Can you guys see your slide?
Yep.
All right, just give us a thumbs up when you're ready to begin and keep an eye on your timer.
Okay, we're ready. Okay. My name is Eunice.
My name is Elizabeth.
And I'm Pauline.
Our idea is the VCE, the Vapor Condensation Evaporator. Next slide, please. The purpose of the VCE. Vapor condensation is the water vapor in the air that condenses on your glasses when you step into a humid room. It forms that white film that you see. And in the freezing Alaska temperatures, your foggy glasses are not only inconvenient, but they can also be dangerous, especially if you step into a warm car. So our solution to this problem is the VCE. It will blow away the vapor condensation on your glasses in just a few seconds. Other methods that we've seen are unsuccessful or pretty ineffective. Next slide, please.
The structure of the VCE. The diagram on the right is our final diagram of what the VCE should look like, and the VCE consists of two air channeling screens that are slanted inward, and it also consists of a small foam fan, which makes it kid friendly. Next slide, please.
How to use the VCE. Using the VCE is pretty simple. So first you take off your glasses and put the VCE over your glasses. So the lenses are in between the air channeling screens, and then you turn on the switch and wait for the vapor condensation to clear, and do the same with the other lens. This diagram is our first diagram, so we made some changes to that. Next slide, please.
What makes our idea new and exciting? Our idea is not only effective and efficient, but it's also systematically advantageous. In the freezing temperatures of Alaska, which is most of the year, and when you're wearing a mask to protect yourself from COVID, your glasses fog up, making it really hard to see. So you need the VCE to clear your glasses of the fog so that you can actually see where you're going. Other ideas such as the OptiFog Oscillar lenses and the Optics 55 anti-fog spray do not work as effectively or efficiently as our VCE. Next slide, please.
So our next steps would be making a smaller and stronger prototype, as our original prototype, which is this, was too big, and we would conduct more tests for durability and endurance to cold weather, and use our prize money to support local charities such as Pioneer Home and Boys and Girls Club. Next slide, please.
Thank you, AIC judges and audience, for listening to our presentation. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. We're now going to have our judges ask you questions about your VCE vapor condensation evaporator, and starting with Rochelle.
Awesome job, guys. As a lifelong glasses wearer myself, this is a constant problem for sure. I did have a question about, I guess, the way it works. Is it like the prototype you showed kind of, it looked like it put it on the glasses and then it did its work, and how long does that work, I guess, is the question that I have. Do you have to keep doing it when your glasses refog and what, or is it kind of a one and done for a while sort of thing?
Yeah, so our prototype, so right now it's bigger than it's supposed to be. So it takes longer than we expect it to. So with the smaller prototype, it will, so if you come into a room and your glasses fog up, then all you have to do is just take it off and put it like over one lens like this, and then the other lens, and then it should be good until you, like, I guess, go outside again and then come back inside.
Thank you all.
Great presentation. I loved your diagrams. Question about the intention of how the product gets used. I understand that the prototype's bigger than the ultimate product would be, but do you see people carrying one of these with them, like as a portable kind of device, or do you see them buying it and leaving it in classrooms and in their homes or their offices?
Well, the VCE is supposed to be small so that you can carry it in your pocket or in like a backpack or a purse, like around while you're traveling.
It should be about the size of a credit card. So like the air channeling screens should be like as big as your glasses. So pretty small.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Russ stole my question. As somebody who forgets just about everything every time I walk out of the house, I do have concerns about remembering to take something like this with me. Did you do any testing, or do you have any ideas? I mean, I tend to just take my glasses off and shake them until it clears up. Do you think this would be a lot faster than that? Because and the reason why I don't like to do that is because I can't see. So it sounds to me like your vision is hindered while you're using it. Is that correct? And then have you tested to see if it's any faster than just waving your glasses in the air?
Okay. Yeah, so there is that hindrance, but we did test it. So usually when we would come into like the house and our glasses would like fog up, then we'd usually like wipe it with our shirt or like fan it around. But I don't know, for us it always takes like a minute or more than a minute for it to go away, and like wiping it just like comes back. So yeah, when we tested it was much faster, although there is that hindrance for a little bit.
Hey guys, great job finding a solution which applies to a problem that basically everybody on Earth has. Have you thought about extending this design to something or surfaces other than glasses?
We didn't really quite think about that.
It could work. It could work on other surfaces that fog when you come inside, but I would say the design would have to change a little bit.
Thank you.
Really good idea, and I know from personal experience, my brother would really love this idea. So my question to you was, like, how is, like you said, it will like your final one would be a smaller device. So like what would the cost would be? Do you think would be like the total cost of your item? Would it be cheap to buy, or like how cheap would it be?
So we don't have a definite price, but the materials we were thinking of would be like a silicon box with the foam fan that we mentioned, and the foam fans are actually cheaper than like a plastic fan. So yeah, but I'm not really sure of a definite price yet.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, team and judges. We're now going to bring in our last competitor, Liam Thompson, with his Arctic Hot Spring Greenhouse Systems. We'll give him a minute to pop in here. All right.
Hello, everybody.
Hi there. All right, Liam, are you able to see your slides?
They are in the left or right-hand corner, correct?
The timer will be, yep.
They're not on the main screen, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
All right, can you switch your view to speaker view? That button would be in the top right-hand corner.
Okay, let me see here. Oh, okay, here we go.
Perfect, all right, so you see your slides?
Yes.
Just give us a thumbs up when you're ready.
I'm ready. Is it going now? I don't see the timer yet. Oh, I'm sorry. I see it now. That's oh my word. I'm so sorry. Okay, I see that now. Could you restart that time? I'm sorry, I did not see that. Hi, I'm Liam Thompson, and I'd like to introduce to you the Arctic Hot Spring Greenhouse System. Next slide, please. So the Arctic Hot Spring Greenhouse System is going to kind of solve a problem that we have here in Alaska, which is cold, short growing seasons. Cold, short growing seasons mean you really only have time to grow things like lettuce, you know, some cucumbers, maybe a radish or two, not much else. You can do potatoes, right? But every gardener knows that they want to do more and more and more. Next slide, please. So the system is going to utilize waste heat from our hot springs in Alaska. So waste heat, which I'm thinking for this system, will be hot springs. Hot springs exist pretty much everywhere in Alaska. So where there's volcanoes, there's likely some sort of like geothermal type vents that allow these hot springs to exist. So the Chena River in Fairbanks, Alaska has hot springs all around it. The Nenana River, maybe not the Nenana, but there's one that's outside of Northway, Alaska that also has hot springs in it. The Tanana River, I can go on and on and on. So these systems are supposed to build these little structures that then are heated by hot springs based along rivers or, you know, wherever you can find the hot springs. And what this is allowed to do is bring Arctic research to its fullest and then turn Alaska into a possible economic hub. Next slide, please. So a lot of these systems exist, and so you're probably wondering, what is the novelty of this idea right now? The novelty of this idea is that we're using natural heat, right? So sustainable green heat to heat these man-made objects. Most man-made objects right now are heated through things like oil, coal, or solar, which I guess would be considered clean, solar, wind, etc. But this system is actually going to use Arctic hot springs to heat it without really being on the grid. So what's common among all the examples that you are presented on the slide? Well, they're utilizing excess heat to create microclimates. My system is going to utilize Earth's natural excess heat to heat and make our microclimates. Next slide, please. So the other cosmic greenhouse system would build little microclimates, like we've mentioned. So this differs from the previous examples that we're basically creating these microclimates using natural heat sources. Next slide, please. I realize that one is a bit repetitive. So are the hot springs hot enough? Yes. So like I mentioned before, there are many, many rivers in Alaska, the state of Alaska, that are heated, pretty much kept open throughout winter using just hot springs. So how are we going to keep doing this? We need to keep asking these innovative questions to make the system a reality. Next slide, please. And so what we're going to do now is basically ask, what's our cost? Well, the cost is we're going to need researchers, engineers, surveyors, people who can write and utilize all this information for the public to digest. Next slide, please. And so everything's going to cost something. And so we're probably wondering, is this cost worth it? Upfront, I believe it's going to be worth it because we're going to bring in jobs that are based here locally in Alaska, bring innovation to us.
All right, sorry, Liam, you ran out of time, but thank you so much. You did great. We're now going to have our judges ask you questions, starting with Rochelle.
Thank you.
Awesome job, Liam. So this is a super interesting idea, but one of the challenges that kind of popped into my head as you were presenting was that while Alaska has a lot of geothermal sources at different locations, they don't always line up with where populations are. Could you talk a little bit about where your, I guess, market is, and how big is it?
Yeah. So the travel, they're not going to be based near population centers. But if we notice where many of our small, tiny community villages are, they're actually along rivers. And the whole idea is that we're using the hot springs that are in those rivers to make these microclimates. So if we can find villages that have those hot springs present, we could bring a lot of economic activity to those rural areas. And it wouldn't just be concentrated in the Mat-Su, the Anchorage Valley, or the Fairbanks North Star Borough.
Thank you, Liam.
Hi, Liam. Love the idea of food security and increasing that here in Alaska. What I thought of when I heard your presentation and actually looked through the earlier information was that, this is something that's being done in places like Chena Hot Springs and, Manly Hot Springs. And what makes what you're proposing different than how that same idea has already been applied?
So many of those, so my system is based off the idea of we're using excess buildings to heat microclimates, right? So I have a greenhouse that's kind of based on my south side of the wall. And so I looked at that and was like, well, how do we basically make that greenhouse usable all winter? And so the Manly Hot Spring and the Chena Hot Spring greenhouse examples, those were actually brought up to me after I had submitted the proposal. And so that sense of novelty hasn't really been covered. But I would argue that my idea is a little bit more different in the fact that I would try to push it more to a national level to make it more of a point that we have this capability. We have the ideas here in Alaska. We already have things that exist that can be expanded on. But I guess the main novelty of the idea is that this is questioning how we use, I'll say, a house to heat a non-heated source, and then taking those non-heated sources to just use the natural heat sources. They're not really based, the novelty of the idea is not really based on the two systems that you mentioned. I was thinking more of ideas like, say, the Tok High School greenhouse, which is heated through waste heat off the Tok High School.
Thank you.
No problem.
So not only is heat needed to grow plants, but light. How do we answer that? And some of the places you've mentioned have even more darkness than others. So how do you envision that being incorporated into this project?
So most crops, cool weather crops, so realistically in like say December, you wouldn't be able to grow things like tomatoes, cucumbers, and eggplants using the Arctic hot spring greenhouse system. The idea is that in those times of year, so say from late October to about early February, you have just enough light to be able to grow things like radishes, lettuce, carrots, potatoes. And those realistically only need about 5 hours of decent sunlight. Of course, now, if we expand on the idea of like geothermal heat, we can actually generate power from those geothermal heat systems and possibly generate electricity banks that actually allow us to power UV lights or grow lights of some sort that provide us a little bit of extra power if needed. But realistically, for the winter part, the main idea would be to grow things that don't require a lot of light. Lettuce being one of them, radishes, maybe a turnip or two, and then just those like really basic cool weather crops. The ones that you could always, that are easy to store type stuff, not things that would perish pretty easily as soon as you expose them to like really cold air.
Liam, great idea. I'm not much of a hardy gardener myself, but one of the problems that I foresee is the cost of transportation. Obviously, boat would be much more expensive than, say, a truck down the highway. What challenges do you foresee yourself?
I do foresee transportation being a potential problem. However, I think the infrastructure exists in some fashion that we can make it cost effective. So if you look at the Yukon River, Galena, Alaska, they renovated a whole building that was from a World War II facility. They didn't wait for the summer barge to come in and transport all those the new materials they needed. They actually used airplanes. And so right off the top of my head, I'm thinking McGrath, Galena, Alaska, Nome, Kotzebue, Bethel, those all have airports that are large enough to probably land 737s or just a little bit smaller planes that can be compartmentalized to transport these materials to the villages. Greenhouse materials aren't really big and bulky to some extent. I mean, you can create maybe 5, 10 of them and not really fill up a whole plane. I guess the bigger idea would be like, how do we get these like heat system generators that can convert the hot spring heat into like heat we can control would be the bigger challenge. But I think for the moment, we would be able to use airports in McGrath, Galena, Kotzebue, Nome, Bethel, those type of airports to transport those materials. So but I guess anything that if the base is used as a fire retardant airport in the summer, it realistically is probably large enough to be used as a cargo to some extent.
Great specific answer.
Hi, really good idea, which was really intriguing for sure. So my question would be like, since the new information that Russell gave us, like, is your next steps going to be like kind of look into like what they are doing and maybe kind of trying to improve stuff, like maybe like how it would improve like the climate, like maybe crops that you can, maybe the wide variety of crops that you can grow maybe?
Yeah, so the project being in its kind of like baby stages, I guess. So yes, we would, if this plan were to go through to more than just like this piece of paper plan, yeah, I would utilize local sources to figure out what else we would need to do. In that case, though, you couldn't necessarily monopolize the whole thing because if in that case it's not original, even though the initial question was the original. But yes, we would. I think if the idea were to go through, I would make use as many sources as possible. So I listed Arctic research being one of them. UAF is one of the only Arctic research universities in the nation, and so we would try to utilize as much of that research as possible, where possible, of course. And then, of course, look at local systems that already exist. So we have the Toke greenhouse, we have the China and the one in Manly, and so forth. So yes, we would try to utilize as many local resources as possible because the bigger idea is that we're bringing innovation to Alaska and not trying to monopolize profits for just one project in some sense. Did that answer your question?
All right, thank you, Liam. Real quick, we're gonna pull all of our competitors back to panelist mode. So we're gonna pause while they all make the trip back. All right. Thank you all junior competitors and judges. It's a big deal to make it to the AIC semifinals, and we appreciate all of the hard work and creativity you've put into your ideas, and you've certainly proven you've done the work through the great presentations you've done. The judges are going to take a quick 10-minute break, and then they're going to meet to rank first through fifth place in their new Zoom link, a separate Zoom meeting. The top 5 competitors will return for the finals and award ceremony on Saturday. Honorable mentions will be decided upon, and those competitors receive $50 and the AIC backpack. All junior competitors will be notified tomorrow by an email and follow-up phone call on whether they made it to the finals. Plus, there's a chance for any of the ideas presented tonight to win the Chris Maroc All-State Fan Favorite Lego Award and $100. Please tell your friends and family to cast their vote on the AIC website. And join us tomorrow night at 5:30 p.m. for round 1 of 2 of the main division semifinals for competitors ages 18 and over. We will host 5 competitors on Wednesday and the other 5 on Thursday at 5:30 as well. All of these semifinal sessions are being recorded and will be posted to the AIC website. Once again, thank you judges, competitors, and our audience. Have a good night.